We need a place to gather, a toehold, large enough to house a sizable host. Here at Harrenhal, we cut off the west, surround King's Landing with the dragons, and we could have every greenhead mounted on spikes before the fucking moon turns.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm taking another look at one of the final scenes in Season 1 of House of the Dragon, when Aemond set out in pursuit of his nephew Lucerys over Storm's End. What happened there will plunge the Targaryens into a brutal and costly civil war. But is there any way that either Lucerys or even Arrax could have done something that would have gotten them out of there alive? Obviously, a one-on-one battle wouldn't have cut it. Now we all know that Arrax further provoked Vhagar by shooting fire at her. Aemond shouldn't have been guiding a veteran of so many battles like Vhagar in pursuit of Lucerys like that, but the sudden attack by Arrax is what pushed her over the edge. There was no way for Aemond to rein her in after that. But despite its fatal consequences, if he was going to make a play against Vhagar, Arrax made the right move by going for her face. If that burst of fire had been better placed and hit Vhagar in the eyes, blinding her, then they likely would have gotten away. It's like a gunfight, where the less skilled person gets the draw on the other. If the bullet lands, the gamble pays off. If not, then it's all over. Arrax sensed Lucerys' fear, and with the pursuit ongoing, he felt the only chance of getting away unscathed was to take that long shot. Like Aemond with Vhagar, Lucerys also had no control over his dragon at that moment. The second possibility for them was to outrun Vhagar. Martin writes about this in Fire and Blood. It was bad weather for flying, even for a dragon, and Arrax was struggling to stay aloft when Prince Aemond mounted Vhagar and went after him. Had the sky been calm, Prince Lucerys might have been able to outfly his pursuer, for Arrax was younger and swifter, but the day was as black as Prince Aemond's heart. What's interesting here is that in the show, we see Lucerys emerge above the clouds, and rather than grabbing this advantage and flying as fast as possible out of the area, he just lingers there on Arrax, hoping that Aemond and Vhagar are still searching for him below, and he can just hide out above it all. Maybe a more experienced rider like Rhaenys, or perhaps even Jace, who is older, would have capitalized on this moment. So aside from attacking, attempting to flee, and then sort of hiding in plain sight, there was one other option for Lucerys. He could have made a U-turn and swung Arrax around back to Storm's End. While Boris Baratheon has sided with the Greens, he's not going to want the blood of an envoy and Rhaenyra's son no less on his hands. This might have been the best option of all. But again, Lucerys' youth and inexperience came into play here. He also now knows that Boros is an adversary, so from his point of view, returning to Storm's End wasn't an option. So if luck had been on Lucerys and Arrax's side in some way, if one of the three options that I mentioned had worked and they survived, would this have averted war? Rhaenyra was interested in coming to terms peacefully. It's something that Rhaenys had praised her for.
That girl destroys everything she touches.
That girl is holding the realm together at present. Every man standing round the painted table urges her to plunge the realm into war. Rhaenyra is the only one who's demonstrated restraint.
So without having lost her son, Rhaenyra's mindset isn't going to change. But still, I think the chasm between the two factions is too great. And there are some very strong personalities that each side isn't going to trust. Despite the connection Rhaenyra still has with Alicent, the Blacks can't trust a schemer and a manipulator like Otto with any deal that's made. Then there's the wild card in Aemond, who Lucerys would relay had threatened him and chased him down on Vhagar. The Greens, of course, would never trust Daemon. Otto had been against him since he first became hand to Viserys. And that's why I think it's Daemon ultimately who would swing the scales to war. He's never going to accept a pact where his children would be forced to go to King's Landing. This was commonplace in that world when one side submitted to the other. It's how Theon ended up at Winterfell after Robert and Ned stopped the Greyjoy rebellion. Daemon would also persuade Rhaenyra that their children would never be safe with the Greens in power. I could see her likely being swayed by this argument, particularly after what Lucerys went through and Otto's past history. And if all else went wrong, if he wasn't able to get Rhaenyra to agree, I think Daemon would get on Caraxes and start the war himself, because he's never going to let his children be at the mercy of the Greens.
Aegon the Younger as the king's squire, Viserys as his cupbearer. Finally, the king in his good grace will pardon any knight or lord who conspired against his ascent.
I would rather feed my sons to the dragons than have them carry shields and cups. For your drunken usurper cunt of a king.
So while the death of Lucerys made war inevitable, the two factions had been walking down that path for far too long, and there was already no way to avert war after both Rhaenyra and Aegon were crowned. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you're interested in more on House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire, listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.